I'd like to call this meeting back to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Fritz.
Here.
Mrs. Galnick is not here. Mr. Gibbons.
Here.
Mrs. Gilch.
Here.
Ms. Gore.
Here.
Mrs. Johnson.
Here.
Mrs. O'Donnell.
Here.
Ms. Dentino. She is here somewhere. She is here. Mr. Marks.
Here. At this time, we're going to move on to STAR students. Mr. Bildo.
Thank you, Mr. Marks, members of the Board of Education, members of the public. We will continue our format of this year. I ask our Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Troe, to kind of proctor the STAR student presentation. So Mr. Troe is over to my right here. Tim, welcome. It's all you.
Good evening, everyone. This has been an exciting time each month as we recognize students and programs that we have going on in the district. It's a great district with so many great staff and families and children that we work with, and it's a great opportunity that the board affords us each month to recognize those events that are going on. So tonight and this month is a little bit different because normally we honor from specific buildings, and we do have that. I see we've got about half of Blackwood Elementary School here tonight, Mr. Ferrante. So we've got the certificates here that are from the board and Mr. Bilodeau. Mr. Ferrante will give you those when your time comes and when that recognition is over. But we're going to start with our preschool program, which we actually have in a number of buildings. And so we have our preschool supervisor here tonight, Nicole Petrangelo, and she is going to give a little bit of overview of our preschool program, how it operates. Today was a big day. I don't want to steal any of her thunder, so I will stop talking. But after she's finished, she'll hand the microphone over to Mr. Ferrante, who will recognize the Blackwood students that are here. And then at that point, we'll take a short recess. And if the students would stick around for photos, I know we will want to get some pictures of you for the website and for you to post at the school to commemorate your evening here tonight. So thanks again, everyone, for coming out. And Ms. Petrangelo, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening. Don't clap yet. It's all about the students. So as Mr. Troe said, I'm Nicole Petrangelo. I'm the preschool supervisor. We have over 300 preschoolers in the district spread throughout 4 buildings. So to honor our preschool STAR students, we had to do something a little bit different. It's a little late for them to come hang out, although we see a few. So we put together a presentation featuring our students taking part in events planned by our preschool activities committee. Our activities committee really focuses on planning events that build student-to-student connections as well as family-to-program connections. So this is also a STAR family presentation. You'll see our students working on activities focused on family bonding, celebrating the diversity that's in our program, and positive character building through our program-wide expectations. So just give me a minute to get it hooked up, and we hope you enjoy. So that's just a little overview of what our activities committee plans throughout the year for our preschoolers. Today, the lottery opened up, so that was the referenced big day for us. We exceeded the number of seats that we have available with just lottery entries on the first day. So I think that speaks to all of that our staff does for the program and for our students. For our board, we didn't want you to be left out of our activities, so we have some preschooler made friendship bracelets for everybody. While I get those handed out, I'd like to just recognize the staff who work really hard. We have a couple of preschool teachers and coaches, so our staff that are associated with the activities committee are standing in the back there, and I think throughout the room. So. Make sure you get a friendship bracelet. They're really cute. Mr. Ferrante?
All right. We are so proud of Blackwood, so we did bring everybody. On behalf of Mrs. Noon and myself, I would like to thank the Board of Education for allowing us to acknowledge and celebrate our students. Tonight, Blackwood Elementary acknowledges all the students selected to be members of our School Safety Patrol. For our students to be selected to participate in the Safety Patrol, they needed to demonstrate a sense of responsibility, commitment, fairness, compassion, integrity, and leadership. The School Safety Patrol helps Blackwood Elementary be a better place. The expectations of the Safety Patrol members are high. As fifth graders and our school leaders, they recognize how their influence impacts our school's climate and culture. If you were to come to our school and would see our Safety Patrol escort, you would see our Safety Patrol escorting our kindergarten and first grade students to and from their buses during arrival and dismissal. In the morning, the Safety Patrol is stationed throughout the hallways of our building, monitoring students coming into our school, going to and from the cafeteria and back to their classrooms. During the school days, our Safety Patrol can easily be identified because of them wearing their safety belts. This means that students and teachers are aware and can recognize them during the school day, just in case if anybody needs any help. This commitment goes beyond the regular hours of school. This year, our Safety Patrol volunteered their time and effort to the Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service, working on multiple service projects. In the spring, they will participate in the organization and facilitation of the cereal drive to help those who are less fortunate by supplying breakfast foods to the Unforgotten Haven. Before I recognize our students, I'd like to recognize our teachers who mentor this fantastic group, and that is Mrs. Rohr and Mrs. Dash. Okay. I'm going to announce all the members of our Safety Patrol, if they can come up and kind of work down in front and side by side, and we'll save all the applause for the end. Okay, we have Mila Boyce, Napana Asanin, we have Avery Mashke, Salem Austin Hernandez, Atib Kabir, Victoria Realiza, Kata James, Melody McLeod, Peyton McNeil, Monroe Myers, Nicholas McIntyre, Mufadil Ajetun Mobi, Afshin Bushra, Gabrielle Scardino, Mason King, Brandon Foster, Josiah Vasquez, Sophia Jimenez, Hayden O'Brien, Ibrahim Barite, Christian Holland, Janessa Brown, Delaney Henderson, Madison Carley, Kate Keith, Imani Jennings, Temperance Diedrichson, Khaleesi Latour, and Ava Casabria. And that makes up our School Safety Patrol. We're going to pause and take a couple parent pictures. Right after this, we're going to get you your certificates, and we're going to take pictures in the back. And thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Troe.
Thank you again. So we're going to have you guys, we're going to take a short recess, take a few photos. You got some cookies and refreshments in the back if you'd like, and then in about 5 to 10 minutes, the board will resume with the regular session for the night, board session for the night. So thank you again for coming out. Congratulations, students. Thanks for all the work that you do, and have a great evening.
We're going to start in 1 minute.
I'd like to call this meeting back to order. May I have approval of minutes for executive session, December 18th, 2023, January 8th, 2024, January 22nd, 2024. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
This was a regular meeting?
Executive.
3 executives.
You have any questions?
This is as amended, correct?
Should be for your two.
No,
January 22nd should be as amended,
as amended.
according to Mr. Long. Thank you.
According to the solicitor.
According to you.
Okay, according to me.
Mrs. Fritz,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mrs. Gilch,
Yes.
Mrs. Gore,
Yes for December 18th, yes for January 8th, abstain on January 22nd.
noted. Mrs. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Ms. Dentino,
Yes.
Mr. Marks.
Yes. May I have a motion and second for regular board minutes, January 22nd, 2024?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Marks, these are as amended. Mr. Gibbons on 7.3A voted no on check 131910, and Mrs. O'Donnell abstained on check 131936.
Thank you. May I have a roll call as amended, please?
Mrs. Fritz,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mrs. Gilch,
Yes.
Ms. Gore,
Abstain.
Mrs. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Ms. Dentino,
Yes.
Mr. Marks.
Yes. At this time, we'll open up public comments for agenda items only. Ms. Hendry?
Speak into the microphone. It moves.
I'm looking at the calendar, the proposed calendar for 24, 25. I know there's a lot of discussion on, since we just had conferences, about changing the conference dates. I'd just like to propose a couple different things. I know the elementary schools feel like they need a little more time, close to 1 day. And the middle school, a lot of us were talking, and maybe it would be good to have less interruptions in the student schedules, and maybe go a half a day on Wednesday, the 12th in February. I have a conference in the afternoon, and in the evening, and then Thursday would be an in-service day, but I don't see that in-service day there. If I'm looking at the calendar. Does that make sense? This year we had Wednesday the 14th, and then we had in-service on Friday, on Thursday, and then off Friday, Monday. And then the conferences were the following week. See how it's, if you're looking at 24, 25, the conferences on the 21st. I would say let's move them back to February 13th, and maybe have a half a day and the night conference prior to that break. Or if you have an in-service, what happens in in-service? Oh, sorry, my fault. Went to the first week. Just something to think about.
Patty, can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
Can you email Mr. Bildo all that information so we can look into it?
But I think, I know there was a survey that went out, but I know there was a lot of discussion today about the survey, and when you think about doing this, because there would be less interruptions, because we had Wednesday, and then in-service Thursday, off Friday, Monday, and then the next week we had a not an interruption, it's just trying to make things more routine for the students, less interruption.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Hendry?
Hi, good evening, Tina Hendry, Somerville. I have a couple questions. It looks like there's a head custodian that's resigning this week. Today was his last day of this week. Was there an exit interview conducted?
Can't say specific on this situation, but if you want to talk about exit interviews generally, go ahead.
We can speak about exit interviews under old business, Mr. Long. When the board takes action on the resignation, I would have to ask Mr. Mercado if an exit interview was conducted, but the administration's in the throes of processing them. I can't answer whether he did or didn't.
Okay. You have two aides, two one-on-ones also resigned. Are we doing exit interviews?
Is that an item on the agenda?
Yeah,
It is?
yeah. There's two
Exit
aides that-
interviews is on the agenda?
No.
The
It'll be
resignation,
answered on an old
the
business.
resignation is.
It'll be
it's
answered on an
fine-
old
It's fine
business.
to answer it.
You can?
Yeah.
We're in the throes of doing that, yes.
So it's something that's starting?
Yes.
Okay. For declining of the positions, there's several. Do we know why they're declining positions to work in the Gloucester district?
You want me to answer?
Please.
I don't know.
Are we asking them? Like, if somebody doesn't want to do something, are we asking them, like, why did they decide not to?
I would have to
take their job?
inquire with the Human Resources Department.
Is he here?
Who's here?
Like, is the human resources
No.
person here? Okay. My next question is, the Brett Novi invoices, are we paying their benefits? Because there's a line item that says benefits. It's on the agenda.
I haven't seen that invoice. We pay them as a vendor. I don't know how they detail their bill.
Does anybody know? Because there's two line items. There's him and then it says benefits.
What number is that on the agenda?
On the bill list?
Yeah, hold on.
The agenda or the bill list?
It was listed online with the agenda.
Gene, can you take a minute and look into that and report it back to us with that? Thank you.
Yeah, there's two amounts. It says Brett Novi and then it says benefits underneath.
It's not the bill list, because that's on the site.
If you look online and where the agenda is, it's listed there.
All right, just give us an opportunity to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I see none. We'll move on to the reporter solicitor. Mr. Long?
Thank you, Mr. Marks. My items were discussed in the closed session this evening. I have nothing further at this time.
Thank you. Reporter superintendent, Mr. Bildau.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Members of the board, I'd like to ask for consent resolutions for items 6.2 through 6.6. M.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Fritz?
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilch?
Yes.
Ms. Gore?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. O'Donnell?
I am going to need to abstain on 6.6G, 3705, 2273, 3746. Yes on the balance.
What are those numbers?
Ms. Dentino?
Yes.
273, 3746.
Mr. Marks?
Yes. Report to the business administrator.
Yes, asking for the board's approval of 7.1 through 7.7, and as you'll note, we did have both December and January's financial reports are attached.
May I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
I do. I hate to keep sounding like a broken record, and I'm not sure who at this board table is in agreement. Have we done anything, any kind of looking into other options for Brett Denovi and Associates? This is a lot of money, and I just feel that we can bring this into the district somehow, but I think we need to have a plan. And I would really like to try to get a plan together so that we can maybe bring our own people in instead of using an outside vendor. I say it every time. I did vote no on this check for the longest time, not because I didn't want the children to have services. In my mind, I was trying to prove a point. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think we need to look into this. It's a lot of money going out the door, and we can have our own people here. So I don't know if anybody else on the board agrees with me.
I responded every month that you bring it up. Special services going through it. We're trying to get our own people in. It's an ongoing process that we've been doing.
I think we need to really ramp up our figuring out a goal or a process in order to do it, so.
We just can't deny kids services, kids that need services. We have to provide them, and until we can get people in here, we have to.
I understand that, but I'm asking.
It's not the only company. We use Great Minds.
No, I understand that, but I just feel like we do not have a plan. We need to get a plan.
What if we trained our own people?
We've done that.
I think from what the background that I've heard on it, it's very difficult to get the people with the certs to do it.
Well, you mean as a trainer? So we would need a trainer. If we opened it up to all our aides, contracted and non-contracted, tell them during the summer when they're not working, we could train them in as a group, have them certified.
Is Dr.
and then-
Martin here? Because she can just answer this, because I know that we go over this all the time. Would she be able to speak on it? Dr. Martin?
Dr. Martin, we're talking about Brett Denovi
With a microphone.
and a option to have an in-house program.
Dr. Martin, I don't know, I guess you heard me. I know I bring this up every month. I just feel that we need to have some kind of plan or something set that we can maybe go to the outside, look for people. I'm not saying it's easy to find. I'm not saying that. But if maybe we open it up, I know we tried to before, it's just a lot of money. And I just feel if we had our own people in here, we'd be able to better have hands-on them than we do of an outsider.
So we do have a plan and we do have our own program. The problem is that you can't afford them. Right now, we offer $21 to $25 an hour for someone with an RBT certification. We've only been able to secure one person with that offer. And the only reason why we're able to secure that person is because they are a resident of Gloucester Township, their children go to the school district, and they are committed to supporting the population because they've been doing it for over 30 years. And they're committed to our community. The other problem is we just interviewed someone. We interview people all the time. The position is always posted. And just this week, Mr. O'Brien and I were turned down because we didn't offer, but the person was making $31,000 a year plus full benefits plus tuition reimbursement. We cannot compete with that. In terms of our one-on-one aides, just regular positions, there are no applicants. Erica and Kevin have interviewed about 150 people just this year. We do probably anywhere between 10 to 15 interviews a week. And those are outside agencies that we're turning away because we don't have applicants. We do not have applicants for teaching positions. We are recruiting, we're calling colleges. I'm writing emails to heads of departments and sending profiles and anything that you can think of, we're trying. Resources are extremely limited. There are no seats in out-of-district placements right now. The children that we determine eligible for services, there are some children who haven't even been enrolled in school because we can't program for them. So I'm actually sending people to their homes and working with them as a partner to find an appropriate program for them. The type of child that is coming through nowadays are way more complex, have a lot more intense needs. I even have a profile of students that I was sharing with Mr. Tro that I've taken the names off, and just to give you a description, and I can give you a copy of it so you can see the complex needs of the children that we are servicing. I'm on the telephone every single day with a psychiatrist or an outside provider trying to support families who are extremely overwhelmed. And the needs are vast, and we're really at our capacity in terms of what we're able to support at every grade level. And thank God we have the preschool programs that we do, because we're able to do more for more children. But when you walk into our self-contained preschool classrooms, you have children who are functioning at anywhere from 12 to 18 months. No language, no mobility, and unfortunately, they're struggling, and they're 3, 4, and 5 years old. And our preschool teams are maxed out in terms of their ability to service the volume of referrals that are coming here. We don't know where it's coming from, but when we speak to our colleagues, everybody is in the same boat. We're meeting collectively as directors in Camden County, taking on our own responsibility of troubleshooting, brainstorming. We have out of district, I just planned a huge fair for all out-of-district programs to come to one location to tell us who their target population is, how are they servicing them, and what is it that we need to do to access services, because we're struggling. We do not have access to neuropsychologists because pediatric neuropsychology has dwindled. The wait lists are significant. And then just recently, Inspira just opened an autism diagnostic center, and I don't know how I ended up on the phone with this young lady, but she happened to have one of our children in her office tearing it up as we were on the phone, and she was asking me for help. So I don't know where this is going, and we are being very smart about our resources. But here's the funny thing about Brett Denovi and Associates. They don't charge us what they charge other people. That's first and foremost. We have a really good relationship with them because they understand our position. They understand that this is not our desire, that we prefer to have our own people. We don't have the ability to service the needs of the students. If you come and do a field trip just in our special programs, there are students that are in those special programs that are significantly impaired. They're the ones that used to be in the out-of-district placements when I worked in that environment. The other children who were in the traditional autism type program, they're now included. They're in the regular education programs getting services and doing very well. But the children who we're servicing are the children that can't be serviced out in the special programs. And even still with that, our number is huge because we can't meet the need, and neither can they. And guess what? They can't find staff. But one thing about Brett, I will say, is his people work collectively with us. They take our lead. They're constantly training. If we say that something doesn't seem right or whatever, they check on their people. They're checking IEPs. They're making sure that a student's needs are being met. And if they need to train, they train. We're not charged for that. Our BCBAs can't manage the volume that they have now. So having them there with that extra support is tremendous. The other piece is, if there's someone who's absent or if someone's not working out, they will replace them and they will give us a substitute. The other agencies don't have the access to that. And we can't even, if someone's out, they don't get services. These are all services that we're legally mandated to provide, right? And we also have to demonstrate and show progress. So historically, sure, we could have done this way back when I started in 2012. We were constantly training. We are still offering, and we still have the ability to train. But that's not the issue. The issue is nobody wants to get the crap beat out of them 24/7. They don't want to be spit on. They're not running down the halls. Don't want to get punched. They don't want to toilet children. And in the medical fragile students that are coming in, that's a whole nother conversation. So we're in this crux in society right now that since COVID, and we analyzed our data and our numbers in terms of eligibility have not gone up. So that's a credit to the district and the programs that we have here. So we haven't had this huge influx of students needing special education. It's just the intensity. And if you look at the numbers, Mr. Cho just ran them, from 2014, we had 1,288 students. Today, there's 1,275. Wow. If you look at other districts, they're way more. Their numbers are higher. And ours are not. But it's the intensity that we're struggling with. And then it's for those students that are not classified, you still have all the mental health components that we're struggling with also. That's draining our resources. So, we're always open. I will recruit young people to come in, but we don't even have substitutes. And people will tell you they're sitting here because they're volunteering to an extra period to cover for a leave or cover for absences. I have a social worker that's going out on maternity. I have nobody to replace her. I'm doing IEPs. And that's not my job.
Thank you, Dr. Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Martin.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Fritz.
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons.
I'm going to vote no on check 132208, yes on the balance.
132, what were we just talking about? 13208?
1322.
2208, thank you. Mrs. Gilch.
Yes.
Ms. Gore.
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson.
Abstain on 132223 and 132353. Yes on the balance.
The last one, 132.
353.
Thank you. Mrs. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Ms. Dentino.
Yes.
Mr. Marks.
Yes. Any old business, Mr. Bildo?
I do. Microphone, I do. I was, earlier, Mrs. Hendry was asking about exit interviews. I'll go back to that. Good evening, Mrs. Hendry. The administration's been working on a revisit to establish a questionnaire for all employees who exit the board. The board's going to get information, more information in my weekly communication to them. But the effective date, I did confer with Mr. Marcano today. March 1st will be the day that all employees exiting the district will receive that questionnaire. We will keep that data and discuss it in the personnel committees. Number two, a year ago, I spoke to the Board of Education when Mrs. Cora, who is a very good administrator here, ran our food service department, about the growing problem with our food services department and the non-payment of breakfast and lunches. At the then time, I told the Board of Education a year ago that the annual amounts of money that food service pre-COVID were $4,000 to $6,000 a year. Last year, midway through the year, those just in the 22-23 year, it had been $40,000 when I announced it to the board. Tonight, I'm letting the Board of Education know again, this is a continuing growing problem. It is currently, according to Mr. McCauley, a $108,000 problem through the Board of Education for people who aren't, they are not eligible for free. And we certainly, students and families that can't afford it, we certainly do want to feed them breakfast and lunch on either the free and or the reduced lunch price programs. But these are specifically parents that don't qualify and are not paying. So there's more information I will be bringing to the Board of Education on attempts to recover those amounts in arrears. I just wanted to bring it up again a year later. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Mr. Tro and certainly the preschool program here in the district. It is a great program, and Gloucester Township Public Schools and this board should be proud of it. And I would like to remind the Board of Education that we service about 400 students, but there are over 200 students that can't get in the program. We do not have the space. And I know that Mr. Marks has heard me. The board has probably got their ear holes bleeding that we need some space. And I think that we're going to work together, collaborate, and try to find something to make our wonderful program even better. So that's the old business, Mr. Marks.
Thank you. New business?
Mr. Marks, can I ask a question regarding something Mr. Bilodeau said? So 7.7B is a corrective action plan
Yes.
for food services,
Yes,
dealing with money.
it is.
Okay, so tell me how that correlates with the $108,000 that is outstanding from students.
That's a great question, Mrs. O'Donnell. It is quite ironic that you bring that up. During, I guess, the tail end of, during COVID and the year just after the coronavirus, both the Federal Department of Agriculture and the New Jersey State Department of Agriculture, it was like a tsunami of money and resources that both of those agencies gave to all participants, all LEAs in the state of New Jersey and nationwide to essentially feed anyone. And I know that both this district did a great job. Our food service, our ladies were out in bitter weather feeding people. I know that Black Horse Pike partnered with us, and that continued on. And for the years after, I guess, the threat of COVID, students that were technically under formula to pay either for breakfast or lunch did not have to pay. But the federal government certainly signaled that, hey, that program is ending. And I don't think that people have quite gotten, or I'll be delicate, we need to improve the communication.
Okay, but isn't the corrective action plan because of too much money?
It's too much money that was predicated when they had programs. And so they have money in their, essentially the food service bank account, and there is a federal formula that says you cannot have more than 3 months worth of your receipts. But the amount that the war chest that was created from COVID is so enormous that we are going to, that's why we have a repeat finding. This is identical to a year ago, we had too much money. The Food
Yeah,
Service
so why can't we
Department is
take
using-
some of that money to pay down the $108,000? Like, why don't they balance out?
It's not, that is not a qualifying thing that you can do. You can, and the Food Service Department has been doing this along with last couple of business officials. They are, as far as capital improvements, serving lines, ovens, dishwashers, flooring systems, we are going to spend that money rather quickly. I think Mr. McCauley, well, we have $700,000 we're going to spend shortly.
Yeah, we spent over 400 last year and another 700 this year in equipment. We cannot use it for students. It has to
Okay,
use
so
equipment.
tell me how the $108,000 that's not being paid by families negatively affects food services when we have an overabundance of money 2 years in a row that we need a corrective action plan for. Like, tell me the negative that comes out of that 108.
Well, can I speak like an accountant? Do
Simplify
you
it.
understand accountants?
Simplify it.
You have operating expenses, and then you have reserves. And as long as the food service has these reserves that were built up from the time of COVID, they're not part of your operations of buying food and selling it to kids on an annual basis. It's just a huge savings account that they're saying, hey, you have too much by our formula, spend it down, or you're going to keep getting written up by the audit. I don't know if I'm making sense.
So we can't really buy food with that money that's just sitting there.
You can't take the $108,000 from your savings account and throw it
Got it.
over into current operations.
Okay, I appreciate that.
But I'm not making the point. Is it financially solvent? Yes, it's doing very well. They work very hard in that department. It's a different principle I'm bringing up tonight.
That the rapidness of it going from 4,000 to 40,000 to 100. Next year it could be 200.
Yes, sir.
We got to slow the train down.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Do we have a plan for that?
I'm going to be bringing some things, some suggestions to the Board of Education. Yes, Mrs. Johnson. We did, but it's not perfected, Mrs. Dentino. I want to do some things. You have to be very, very careful because there are laws from the Department of Agriculture that, in my opinion, favor the parent or guardian. They don't want food shaming and things that are nonsense we've heard about from other districts. We're not going there. But if you should be paying, for breakfast and lunch, that's the expectation of this district.
Thank you. New business?
None at this time.
None. We'll open up the public comments.
You don't gotta look around, come on up.
The microphone is yours.
Dina Henry, Somerdale again. I can tell you one of those kids on that list is my son Owen, who is $1.75. He brings lunch every day to him from home, but the lunch ladies, as lovely as they are, allow skinny Owen to buy snacks. And he's run up $1.75 and told him I wasn't going to pay it, that he had to pay it himself. So one of the ways is not allowing the kids to buy snacks. Like, it's not lunch, it's not breakfast. Like, the snacks, like, they shouldn't be allowed to buy snacks. I mean, I can see if a snack is 50 cents and he only has 45, there's 5 cents, but $1.75 and now I get a notice is not too cool. But anywho, I do apologize for Owen's excessive snacking.
No need.
He doesn't need it. So, as you all know, I am in support of this whole entire district, from the teachers to the students, except for Owen, who likes to snack, and especially our support staff, which from my understanding, negotiations are starting, which is pretty exciting, and I really hope that it's in favor of our support staff. But I have a couple of questions, because I did do a post in our township page, and it's come to my attention that it takes a 10-month secretary approximately 8 years to earn about $20,000, and a custodian takes about 11 years to reach $40,000, and a maintenance mechanic takes about 7
Wilder?
So let me try to fill in some gaps here on your question. If you have a paraprofessional in this example who's at step 5 and was 10 months and now has an opportunity to be a 12-month secretary in the main office, and you want to know why did they go from step 5 para down to, say, step 2 as 12-month secretary?
In the same realm, like from para to para or custodial staff to custodial staff, not
Yeah,
like changing positions.
We don't have a practice of having people on the same category dropping steps, but if you go from, say, a para to a higher salary, say, that I was giving the example, why would it be step 2? Step 2, as say the secretary, is still going to garner more annual salary than the para was making, okay? And it's just, it's a system I inherited from multiple boards and other superintendents, but that is a practice of putting them with a raise on the guide of, but you're saying say 5 years, why don't they get 5 years as a secretary? Because they were in a different position.
It's all negotiations.
It's, yeah.
So there's not like a set policy or anything, it's just kind of like an unwritten rule? Like, is there like a rule?
It's happened so often, it's a practice, I would say. It's a practice, and past practice, you can turn around and find out how strong past practice is with people seated there tonight. It is, for all intents and purposes, close to something that either side has an expectation of, meaning management or the union, yes.
That they would drop?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I got, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other? Jeff?
Or two. Patty McBride, GCA. So just to clarify, the calendar has been approved as stands? Okay, so there's no change in that, going back or looking at?
We always do amend it.
We'll have a conversation about that Goldilocks.
We'll change it probably 5 more times before
Okay.
it happens.
My next question is in regard to District Policy 5511, is the dress code. I know it was changed back in June of 2023, but we seem to have an uptick in the carrying of bags with the students coming in. Wawa bags, Target bags, Walmart bags, ShopRite, Acme. These students are carrying these bags throughout the day. We used to have a policy before the one that was approved in June, or number 13 from the old policy, pupils are not permitted to wear, carry book bags and nylon shoe bags of any sort during the school day. I really think it's a safety and security issue with, we don't have metal detectors at the doors, okay? And if we're going to let them carry bags, why don't we just let them carry their book bags all day long?
Yeah.
Okay, they have their little Wawa bags, they have their Walmart bags, I'm not kidding, ShopRite bags the other day. What's happening is the students are bringing their food into our classes, and when you're not looking, they're reaching into their bags, and pulling out whatever they want to eat. Next thing you know, you have crumbs all over the place. Not to mention, they can bring any paraphernalia that they want, whether it is metal, not metal, whatever. I think we need to go back and relook at that, carrying the bags to school, because it really has become a distraction. And I can't go through the bag, okay? I mean, but they're carrying those bags around all day long.
ShopRite bag, like the
No,
the checkout
Wawa
bag?
You know the red Wawa bag?
Yeah, like the,
store?
Like
after
you
the
use in
plastic
the
bag
food
ban.
store, when
Yes.
you bring your own bags now.
Yeah, plastic bag when you get a ShopRite, you have to pack your own groceries.
The policy committee review.
So, Patty, can I ask you a
Was that
question?
taken out, is what you're saying?
You were twisting that into 5511. They're bringing, it's not like a bag of clothes that they're bringing in, they're just bringing in bags.
They're bringing
And,
bags.
and there's no other policy this phenomenon's fitting into right now.
No,
It's a problem,
so.
safety and security.
It was in 5511 before, and then when you redid,
It was gone,
it was gone.
okay.
And I mean, this is the first year that we really have done it. Since I've been in the district, they've never been allowed to carry bags. It really is a safety issue and security issue throughout the building. They had to carry their books. Now they have their little red Wawa bags, like I said, their Target bags. Like I said, now I'm seeing Acme bags and ShopRite bags come in, and they put their lunch boxes in, their cell phones,
I agree.
I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. Donna Savage, resident, parent of a special education student. I just have a question. Do special education students receive additional funding from the state or federal government that deemed regular students wouldn't receive?
Yes.
So that would also help pay for their one-on-ones and things like that. So there should be additional money for those students versus regular students,
Yeah,
correct?
there are additional resources for special needs students, yes.
Okay. Also, I was a little disappointed with Dr. Martin's assumption of the special needs students, saying the aides are getting hit, bit, spit on, things of that nature. My son has been in this district for a year. I have not heard that. He has been a special education student since he started school. I've never heard of that. Is that happening in our school district?
Yes.
There are students that
Microphone.
do present, there are students, Ms. Savage, that present a lot of difficulties at times. I don't think that Dr. Martin was trying to impugn your child or do some type of broad brush, but there are more and more challenging. I think Dr. Martin did say that the students that are coming into our district, and she mentioned even other districts, have more severe issues. And yes, do they result sometimes being physical? Yes. And yes, do our teachers, do our aides take the brunt of it? Yes, and that's unfortunate.
So do we have a plan set up to protect students like my son from those other students that may be doing that?
Straight.
'Cause if
Yeah,
we're short
absolutely.
one-to-ones, I mean, is the classroom support there for students that may have behavior issues? Because this is the first I'm hearing about, and honestly, to that extent. So now as a parent, I'd be concerned for my own child's safety.
Well, I think that you may have heard it by now if there was an issue in that classroom. However, when a student, say in this case, is more physical, that doesn't necessarily mean that they also can't suffer some type of consequence. But there's also legal protections for students with special needs. And there's manifestation hearings of whether or not that outburst is part of their deficit. And I know I don't want to get too technical, but
Reallocate
I think our teachers and our staff in this district, and your son's fortunate to be in a special needs program here.
Right, it almost
They
doesn't happen. It's gonna be
always,
out.
first and foremost, are making sure their classroom environment's safe, and along with that, are offering great instruction. So I think, on the whole, your child is being protected.
I have another question.
Yes,
Did all of our staff, Paul's Law, have they all done their epilepsy training that is required by the state of New Jersey?
I don't know that answer tonight.
I asked that question a year ago when I sent my son to this district. I forwarded you and Dr. Martin Paul's Law information.
I'll have to look into it. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Yes.
Andrew 20 in Annapolis Drive. Several of my colleagues have brought up the idea of creating report cards, and I know you guys were going to be discussing it. So I just wanted to, we have a newest printout of this marking period's verification of the report cards. We are at about 22% of verified report cards. I know I sat in on numerous conferences where the parents had not looked at the report cards at all, did know the grades of their students, but I just wanted to pass this along.
Sure, just Mr. Rapoli, and then he'll pass it.
Thank you. Any other? I see none. We'll move on to board member comments.
I do. I'd like to congratulate the students that were inducted into the Junior National Honor Society at both Lewis and at Mullins School.
Thank you. Any other?
I'll ditto that. I'll piggyback on Mrs. Johnson, congratulate them, and congratulate the students that were here tonight for the safety patrol in Blackwood.
Thank you. Any other?
I'd like to congratulate the STAR students. I'd like to thank the preschool for the bracelets that they had made for everyone. I'd like to thank Dr. Martin for the detailed explanation so that a lot of board members are aware of what's going on and what we've been doing in special services meetings. And congrats to the National Junior Honor Society as well.
Thank you. Any others? I'd like to thank everyone taking the time to come out tonight. Have a good night, and see everybody soon. May I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Good night.